Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt and I'm spending the day today with the best-selling subcompact SUV in America. This, of course, is the new Subaru Crosstrek. And we're going to do things a little bit different today because I'm in Texas, so we're going to do things a little bit more POV for logistical reasons, but we're going to have a driving portion at the end, so hang around for that. But this Subaru Crosstrek is an affordable, economical way with a lot of muscle to bring you and your dog really anywhere you want to go. There's a lot to like here, but we're going to hit the highlights, the best and the rest, starting with the rest. Number one is the lack of turbo or hybrid. You can get this Crosstrek in two engine configurations. You can get the base engine, which is a 2-liter naturally aspirated boxer 4-cylinder, or you can upgrade to a 2.5-liter for a little bit more displacement and a little bit more power. It is interesting to not have a turbocharger, which might be nice to add a little bit of low-end torque and also normalize power if you're going to be doing some camping and hiking and adventuring in altitude. But it is still pretty efficient. This thing gets pretty good fuel economy, but it is surprising to see an all-new car come out in 2023 without a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid option. Just a little bit interesting. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the interior build materials, and it's pretty Subaru here. You've got some cloth here, you've got some plastic carbon fiber looking stuff, but you get a lot of these scratchy black plastics. This is a little bit softer. The upper part of the dash almost feels a little bit rubberized. You've got some scratchy stuff here. This is plastic. I kind of wish this was leather wrapped. But we step in here and we've got some nice cloth seats. Now this has some nice dimpling and some contrasting accenting going on to give it a more expensive feel. But again, if you want to get leather, you will have to go up to the limited trim. So again, this is built to a price point and you can see where they save some money. And number three is that you can't get a head-up display. Now this is kind of bordering on something that I may or may not expect from something in this class, but it would be nice to have a head-up display, especially if you're on the trail, to understand where your torque is being sent on the car. And I guess ultimately it's just kind of surprising that you have all of this screen and you have wireless CarPlay, so you have really modern features, but you don't get a head-up display. And fourth and finally, we talk about maybe another small thing, but the sunroof here. Now the sunroof here is a $2,600 option if you want to add it, which just seems like a lot, especially for a sunroof that isn't panoramic. And especially when you consider that you can jump up from the base trim to the premium trim for $1,400. So for over $1,000 more, you can get a small sunroof. Just feels like expensive for a sunroof. But now I want to start talking about some of the good stuff, because there's a lot to love about this new Crosstrek, and the first thing is the price. This thing starts at $25,000, and you get a lot of car for that money. You get great fuel economy, you've got a lot of off-road capability, you've got muscle to put stuff on your roof and to tow, so you're getting a lot of car for your money here. And number two is you get all-wheel drive standard. Now in typical Subaru fashion, every Subaru comes with symmetrical all-wheel drive as standard. That means you get 50% of your power going here and 50% of your power going there, which is fantastic to have. And on this Crosstrek you can get X mode, which is a more aggressive off-road oriented programming for the all-wheel drive system. And for X mode, when you turn that on, if you're on the trail, it automatically engages hill descent control. So if you're new to off-roading or just starting to explore some trails, you can do it pretty safely here in this Crosstrek. And number three, we're going to talk about efficiency. Now, like I said, there's two engine options that you can get here. The one that we have is the 2-liter naturally aspirated boxer 4-cylinder. It's not a hybrid, it's not turbo, and yet it still gets about 30 mpg. It has about 152 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque. So it's not going to set your heart on fire, but it does get pretty good fuel economy. You can upgrade to a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated boxer 4 as well, but we don't have numbers on that quite yet. And then I want to talk about the muscle on here. Your towing capacity on this Crosstrek is 1,500 pounds. That's 500 pounds more than you get on a Honda CR-V, which is a whole class above this, and almost as much as the 1,750 that you get on a RAV4, which again is a class above this. So this little Crosstrek packs a lot of muscle. And then, since you and your dog are going to want to go camping, you're going to want to do it in glamour with a roof tent, which means, I apologize for the noise of our friend over there, but like I was saying, you're going to want to camp in glamour and comfort. So you have 176 pounds of dynamic weight that you can put on the roof, which means while the car is driving, you can have something 176 pounds worth on your roof safely. And then when the car is parked, you can put up to 700 pounds on there. So that's including you if you're going to be sitting or laying in your camper on the roof. Pretty muscular for this little Crosstrek. And then I want to talk about just general off-road chops. Now this is designed to be able to go off-road immediately. Now like I said, all of these come standard with a symmetrical 50/50 all-wheel drive system. You also have a chain-driven CVT transmission rather than a belt-driven, so it's more durable. And then you get that X mode, which is a little bit more off-road oriented to help shift power around the car if you're needing to send power to a wheel that's not slipping. And then, of course, you've got 8.7 inches of ground clearance, which is a whole 0.1 or a tenth of an inch more than you get from a lowly Bronco Sport. And then, of course, to top it all off, I'm sure that there's going to be a wilderness version with even more off-road capability coming in the future. And then I just want to talk about the looks itself. Now, this I think looks pretty good. We've got a Salvador Dali-esque mustache up front tied into your LED headlights. They are dynamic and they swivel as you turn the wheel. You've got a new and updated hexagonal grille, and of course you've got a bunch of cladding here. And this Crosstrek still offers LED fog lights or ditch lights, which you're starting to see less and less of now. And then as we come around the side, we've got some black plastic wheel arch cladding with some functional aerodynamics right here. I say functional because, you know, with 152 horsepower, how functional does it really need to be? And then of course you've got these trim specific wheels and tires. Again, if they do bring a wilderness version later, that'll probably be a Yokohama Geolandar, more aggressive all-terrain tire. But we do see that we've got some plastic cladding down the side to protect your sills if you are gonna go off-roading on the trail. We've got gray mirror caps, black window treatments, and then the roof rails that we talked about. We've got that $2,600 sunroof. And I think it looks pretty good. It's a pretty conventional, pretty Crosstrek looking design from the profile. I think it looks all right. Again, we've got more cladding on that backside here. Subtle spoiler at the top. And then of course, unlike the BZ4X and the Lexus RZ, we have a windshield wiper in the back, as we should. And then of course, we've got our crab grab taillights, which are LED, incandescent turn signals, front and rear, and then a bunch of badging Subaru, symmetrical all-wheel drive, Crosstrek over there, and you can see the texture on the back here. And this, of course, is adapted for the maximum departure angle, and it's got a short wheelbase for a good breakover as well. So, pretty cool look. And then I want to talk about the trunk itself. We do not have a power open tailgate, which, to be honest, I'm not super shocked. I don't really expect from something in this class, but you do have a nice wide opening. It's deep enough to be pretty practical. I kind of use this as my benchmark with my Mazda CX-5 to see what's a decent size. So the CX-5 trunk is really only about here, so you're really only losing about an inch or two or three from back here, but you do have a nice and practical trunk back here. And then I want to talk about the rear seats, and we're going to focus specifically on the size because, well, it's not the nicest material. This is kind of leather wrapped-ish. But yeah, the build materials aren't exactly Lexus, but they shouldn't be. This is a Subaru. But you get back here and you have great knee room, and me, myself at 6 foot, I actually have some headroom even with my Melin on because you've got this nice kind of cutout in the roof here. You only get single map pocket, you get dual chargers, no climate vents, but you do get a cup holder back here, so you get a couple frills, but it's kind of Spartan back here, but that's fine because you're really just going to be putting your dog back here. And then focusing on screens and technology, this is the big story for this year. You get an 11.6-inch Starlink infotainment system. It's nice, it's vertically oriented, it makes the cabin look a little bit more expensive than it otherwise would. You do get wireless CarPlay. I will say the connection hasn't been the most steady, so you can still plug your phone in for a wired CarPlay experience, which will be a little bit more stable. So just something to keep in mind, but the big screen makes this feel a lot more expensive than the dual screens did before. Your gauge cluster is semi-digital with a little TFT screen in the center here. We talk about your your reverse camera rather. You don't have 360 camera, but to be honest, I don't really expect that from this class, so I'm not super bothered by that at all. And then of course you can option in some trims the upgraded Subaru's EyeSight system, which is pretty good. I don't know if it's exactly top tier, but it is good enough to be helpful in certain situations. So overall, I think the tech here is just about what I'd expect, if not a little bit better. And I think with this big 11.6-inch screen, it's going to be really compelling to people getting into a new Crosstrek or people looking from an HRV and a Corolla Cross. All right, behind the wheel of the Subaru Crosstrek, we're going to pin it. Yes. Yes, the CVT. It's making a lot of noise. Still, foot to the floor, and 60. So yeah, I mean, it's not fast. It does 0 to 60 in like about 10 seconds for this base 2-liter equipped car. Now you will get more performance in a sport or a limited, I think it is, whatever the top trim is. That'll get you to 2.5, but it's still going to be naturally aspirated Boxer 4, kind of raspy. It doesn't sound the most refined. This is where I think having a turbo added on here, but then, you know, we're talking WRX, and that's a lot more money, and, you know, then you kind of poop on the value proposition of this car. But it's fine. You know, to be honest, no one that's buying a Crosstrek is looking for outright pace or performance or speed. What they're looking for is something that's efficient, that's comfortable, and that's kind of what you get here. It does about 152 horsepower, 145 pound-feet of torque, and, you know, it's perfectly acceptable for what you're going to want out of this thing. You're getting about 30 mpg combined, but the things that Subaru really focused on here for this new generation, this new Crosstrek, is things like 10% increase in your torsional rigidity from the chassis. So that'll help with your off-roading. It'll also help you feel a little bit more stable at higher speeds. And then also, they worked really hard on reducing some of the NVH, or the noise vibration harshness. Now, you still get a pretty raspy or wheezy 4-cylinder up front, but, you know, the rest of the cabin, it's pretty nice. You know, we've got a bit of road noise coming in, but I blame that more on this road because the rental car that I'm in this week is a BMW, and there's still a bunch of road noise coming in on that, which I know has a more, you know, isolated cabin. So I would say that the overall experience that you get here is pretty good. You've got great visibility out the front, out the sides, and out the rear. You sit up nice and high. You've got a nice view of the road. It's nice to have that sunroof here bringing in a little bit more light, making this otherwise black interior feel a little bit more open and comfortable. So, you know, it's fine. It's great. It's a perfectly good appliance. So that's it. That's the best and the rest for the new Subaru Crosstrek. And while there are some things that I don't love, there's a lot to love about this car. It's really efficient without needing to be a hybrid and adding that complexity. The new screens make the interior feel more upscale and modern, and there's still plenty of room inside, and it's got muscle to tow and put stuff on the roof. So while it may not set your heart on fire, I definitely see why Subaru sells a bunch of these. So leave it down in the comments. What do you think of the new Subaru Crosstrek?